right? So Beto O'Rourke has gone off the deep end with his new gun control push. He was he was the first person to kind of, I mean, I guess other people have done it, but he was the first one to be perfectly open and honest about it. Um, in his pledge to, if he was elected, to confiscate basically AR-15s, basically semi-auto rifles and handguns, which is the vast majority of guns out there. And he's taken it one step further now that he wants credit card companies to cut off their services for anyone doing sales of, quote unquote assault style weapons. You know exactly what they mean when they say that. And other measures, people who sell, ammo that works for an AR-15 or whatever. And this is very, very draconian in every sense of the word. Number one, in the fact that if you had told someone, as recently as 5 or 10 years ago, that whenever the left brings up gun control, that and you would say, well, no, we can't do that because you guys want to ban basically all guns. You want to cut off credit card companies from doing business with people who sell guns. They would say that you're crazy, and I know we don't want to go nearly that far. We just want whatever common sense background checks, quote unquote common sense background checks, whatever they mean about that. And they would call you crazy and all this kind of stuff. But here we are now that the left has gone this far, and like I said, it's just crazy to think that it's so recently the left was so much more watered down milk toast, and that now they're going fully off the deep end. And it isn't just Beto O'Rourke. There's other candidates that want much, much stricter gun control, not just expanded background checks or something that's a very small difference. Don't they want outright confiscation? And they want credit card companies to cut off customers that do work with this. And this is draconian in that people like people like this, they can't convince the majority of people to support their policies. So what do they want to do? They want to act as a dictator and cut off services to people that disagree with them politically, basically. And this is exactly what would happen in a communist country. Like, this is how far off we go. And that you hear conservatives or people on the right compare these people on the left to communists, and people on the left scoff and say, "Oh no, you're crazy. You're going way too far." And then you see stuff like this. That, like I say, exactly what would happen in a communist country, like to the T. And it's just so crazy to think about. Like I pointed out, that so recently the left was. I mean, there was a lot of people who thought that the left was a little too far. I mean, moderates thought that the left was too far left, 10, 15 years ago on a lot of stuff, and that's why they were moderates. Nowadays, they're communists compared to the left that much recently, and that this is becoming very crazy. And that if you're on the fence on this issue, you need to speak up, because this is the kind of stuff being pushed by people like O'Rourke. And like I said, it's not just O'Rourke. Like, almost every candidate on the left is supporting much more gun control. They're not just it's just not, we need a little bit more, but not that much more. We want severe restrictions on semi-autos, which is when people hear these kind of assault style, their definition of it is something that's magazine fed with multiple bullets, basically, which is the overwhelming majority of guns. People think that people have this, I don't know what I would call it. It's kind of the Call of Duty fantasy, that people think that these guns that you have on Call of Duty that are totally tricked out in every way possible, that these are the kind of guns that people are walking around with, and it isn't. It's semi-autos, with iron sights or, red dots that aren't even that fancy, that are the guns that people are walking around with. And it's just a complete fantasy. That the other thing that's crazy too is that the overwhelming majority of these people pushing gun control have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to gun control. Like Joe Biden, for example, saying he wanted to ban guns that hold multiple bullets, which is literally like 99% of guns. And yet, if you told him, or went back and told him, "Oh, so you're basically calling for an outright ban of all guns," he'd be like, "Oh no, oh no." But they know so little, but they think that gun control is a winning issue, which for the far left it is. For the moderate left, it's probably about a 50-50, and for moderates and conservatives, it's an outright losing issue. And it's a losing issue as a whole, because moderates aren't going to go for that. Like, no one in the right mind would support anything more than small changes to gun control laws. I mean, personally, I think that there should be less than there is, but for moderates, if you want to support, maybe, slightly, mental health, as long as there's due process, increase, whatever you want to call it, for increasing, people or decreasing people from that are mentally ill from getting guns, then that's fine. But, you know, this stuff is absolutely crazy, and like I said, people like this are completely draconian. They want to act as a dictator, basically, doing stuff like this because you can't get laws passed. Like I say, if they could pass the laws, they would do it, but they can't do it. So they want to act as a dictator, and this stuff is absolutely crazy. And if Trump was suggesting cut it, Planned Parenthood, people who work for Planned Parenthood or anyone who gets an abortion to have credit card companies cut off services to them, people. I mean, they already are comparing them to these dictators, but it's completely unjustified. But they would be rightfully so comparing them to Hitler or Stalin or Mao or whatever. So that's all I wanted to talk about for today. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.